The lights flickered on Station Meridian as another explosion shook its ancient walls. Admiral gripped the edge of the command table, her pale blue skin turning white at the knuckles. Around her, the holographic display showed nothing but red. Red for lost territory. Red for destroyed fleets. Red for the billions of souls now gone forever. 17 years. They had been fighting the Dominion for 17 long years, and they were losing. Not slowly, not gradually, but completely. The spiral arm had fallen 3 days ago. 60 billion lives across 47 worlds, consumed by the endless hunger of the swarm. Closed her eyes and remembered her. The crystal towers of Prime, shining in the light of twin suns. Her daughter had been born there, had taken her first steps in the garden outside their home. Now that garden was ash. Her daughter was safe on a refugee ship, somewhere in the dark between stars, running from an enemy that never stopped chasing. The doors to the War Council chamber slid open. Representatives from the 11 other coalition species filed in, each one carrying the weight of their dying civilizations on their shoulders. The delegate moved first, his crystalline body catching the dim light and scattering it into rainbows. Behind him came the ambassador, floating in her water-filled travel sphere. Then the Silken and all the others. They took their places around the circular table. Nobody spoke. What was there to say? They all knew why they were here. Finally, High Commander of the broke the silence. His voice resonated through the chamber like wind through a cave. We must make our final stand, the approach the inner worlds. If we concentrate all remaining forces at the passage, we can hold them for perhaps 6 months, long enough for evacuation. Evacuation to where? The ambassador's voice bubbled through her translator. There is nowhere left to run. They have taken everything beyond the core. We surrender or we die. The suggest surrender. Crystal form pulsed with angry light. After what they did to your colony worlds, they do not take prisoners, they take food. Listen to them argue the same arguments they had been having for years. Fight, flee, surrender, die. None of it mattered anymore. They were coming and nothing in the known galaxy could stop them. Her console beeped. A message encrypted from a sector so far from the war that she had to check her star charts twice. She opened it, expecting nothing important. The words on her screen made her heart stop. We have intercepted attack plans. We offer military assistance. Respond on this frequency. Signed, United Nations of Earth. Earth knew the name barely. A small planet orbiting a yellow star in an unremarkable corner of the galaxy. The coalition had discovered them 30 years ago, noted their primitive technology, and moved on. They had barely achieved faster-than-light travel. They were not worth considering. And yet here they were, offering help. Should have dismissed it. She should have deleted the message and returned her attention to the War Council. But something made her pause. Desperation, perhaps. Or simply the need to believe that somewhere, somehow, there was still hope. She forwarded the message to the main display. The arguing stopped. Every eye, every optical sensor, every sensory organ in the room turned to look. What is this? Demanded. A message from a species called humans, said. They offer assistance. Silence, then laughter. The delegate made the barking sound that served as humor for his species. The clicked their mandibles in amusement. Even the bubbled with what might have been scorn. Humans? The silken ambassador waved one of her many arms dismissively. The primitives from the outer rim. Their most advanced warship would be destroyed by a scout in seconds. What could they possibly offer us? They claim to have intercepted communications, said. They have intelligence we do not. Impossible, declared. They use quantum-encrypted channels. Even our best analysts cannot break their codes. A species that discovered electricity 200 years ago certainly cannot. Then how do they know about the attack plans? Asked. Nobody had an answer for that. The council debated for 3 hours. They discussed the humans, their history, their technology, their laughably small military. They concluded, unanimously, that accepting human help would be pointless at best and embarrassing at worst. The coalition was dying, yes, but they would die with dignity. They would not ally themselves with primitives. The vote was called. 11 species voted against accepting human assistance, only voted in favor. The matter was closed, but could not let it go. Later that night, alone in her quarters, she stared at the human message on her personal console. Outside her window, she could see the refugee ships gathering, preparing to flee deeper into coalition space. Millions of people, homeless and afraid, running from an enemy that would eventually catch them. She thought about her daughter, about the crystal towers of Prime, about the 60 billion dead in the spiral arm. Then she opened a secure channel and began to type. To the United Nations of Earth, this is Admiral of the Fleet. The Coalition has rejected your offer, I have not. I am sending you our fleet positions, our defensive plans, and everything we know about the. If you truly wish to help, now is the time. The enemy is coming and we cannot stop them alone. Please, we are desperate. She sent the message before she could change her mind. For 3 days she heard nothing. She began to think it had all been a mistake, a false hope in a hopeless war. They continued their advance. More worlds fell. The coalition continued its pointless debates while the galaxy burned around them. Then on the 4th day, a response came. Admiral, message received. We are coming, hold the line. Captain, UNS Defiance. Read the message 5 times. Such simple words. Such impossible confidence. A species that had never fought a war beyond their own solar system, promising to stand against the greatest military force the galaxy had ever known. She should have felt foolish for hopping. Instead, for the first time in 17 years, she smiled. The humans were coming. Captain stood on the bridge of the UNS Defiance and watched the stars stretch into lines as his ship jumped into coalition space. Behind him, 11 other vessels followed, the entire expeditionary fleet that Earth Command had approved for this mission. 12 ships against an empire that had conquered half the galaxy. Some would call it suicide, called it an opportunity. He was a man of 43 years, with gray streaks in his black hair and a calm face that revealed nothing of his thoughts. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth before humanity reached the stars. He had seen what humans could do when pushed to the edge. They had no idea what was coming. Captain, we are receiving a signal from Coalition Station Meridian. Commander turned from her console, her sharp eyes meeting his. She was young, barely 30, but she had one of the most brilliant tactical minds in the fleet. They are ordering us to hold position and await escort. Ignore it, said. Set course for Admiral's coordinates. The Defiance dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a Coalition forward base. Through the could see the alien fleet for the first time. Massive crystalline ships from the collective, each one the size of a small moon. Sleek silver vessels from the elegant and deadly. Dozens of other designs from species he had never seen before. And floating among them, the 12 small gray ships of the human fleet. They looked like insects next to giants. A communication request came through. Accepted it, and the holographic image of Admiral appeared on his bridge. She was tall and thin, with blue skin and large dark eyes that held a mixture of hope and doubt. Captain, she said, I am glad you have come, but I must warn you, the Coalition Command does not share my welcome. They see your presence as an insult. We are not here for their approval, replied. We are here to fight. A second hologram appeared, this one showing a massive crystalline being that could only be an. High Commander's voice filled the bridge. So these are the humans. Your ships are impressive for a species that discovered fire a few centuries ago. Tell me, Captain, what exactly do you think you can contribute to this war? Did not respond to the insult. Instead, he turned to, Commander, please share our analysis. Stepped forward, her holographic presentation replacing the star map. We have spent the last 6 months studying every piece of tactical data we could find. Their attack patterns, their fleet movements, their communication protocols. And we have discovered something important. She displayed a series of battle recordings. Fleets attacking coalition positions, the same movements repeating over and over again. The do not adapt continued. They follow the same tactical doctrine in every engagement. When they encounter an obstacle, they do not innovate. They simply apply more force until the obstacle is destroyed. Against larger or equal forces, this strategy is effective. Against an enemy that refuses to fight conventionally, it fails. Crystal form pulsed with what might have been amusement. You believe you can defeat them with clever tricks. We have tried unconventional tactics. They do not work. They have numbers we cannot match. Numbers mean nothing if you cannot hit your target, said quietly. Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring across the fleet. A scout force had been detected, jumping into the system. 47 ships, heading directly for a refugee convoy that was trying to escape to safer space. The coalition commanders began issuing orders. Form defensive lines, protect the convoy, standard protocol. Watched the tactical display for a long moment. Then he made a decision. All human ships break formation, go dark and scatter, weapons free on my command. Captain, what are you doing? His voice was sharp with alarm. If you leave the defensive line. Trust me, Admiral. The 12 human ships powered down their main systems and drifted apart, becoming invisible against the background of space. The fleet approached the coalition defensive line, their wedge formation perfect and predictable. Then they noticed the human ships were gone. The commander did exactly what had predicted. Unable to locate the missing enemies, unwilling to proceed with unknowns on the battlefield, they broke their formation to search. 47 ships scattered across thousands of kilometers of space, each one hunting alone. Smiled now. The Defiance powered up directly beneath a destroyer, so close that the enemy's weapons could not angle down to hit them. 2 missiles, fired at point-blank range, tore through this engineering section. The destroyer exploded before its crew understood what was happening. Across the battlefield, human ships appeared from the darkness. They struck in pairs, hitting isolated vessels from unexpected angles, then vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. They tried to reform their wedge, but every time they gathered, another human ship would attack from behind, forcing them to scatter again. It was not a battle, it was a hunt. In 37 minutes it was over, 47 ships destroyed, 0 human casualties. The coalition fleet watched in stunned silence. Opened a channel to Admiral. Admiral, the convoy is safe. What are your orders? For a long moment did not respond. When she finally spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. Captain, in 17 years of war, I have never seen anything like what you just did. How is this possible? Thought about how to answer. He thought about Earth's history, the endless wars, the millions of years of evolution that had shaped humanity into the galaxy's most adaptable predators. He thought about the simple truth that humans had been fighting and killing each other since before they could write, and had become terrifyingly good at it. But he said none of this. Instead, he gave the simplest answer. Humans do not fight the way you expect us to fight. We fight the way we need to fight. They have never faced an enemy like us. They do not know how to respond. His hologram reappeared. The commander's crystal body was dim, subdued. I owe you an apology, Captain. I underestimated your species. It seems we have much to learn from each other. Yes, agreed, we do. That night, Admiral invited to her quarters for a private conversation. She poured 2 glasses of wine, a gesture of respect and trust. The coalition will want to know more about your tactics, she said. They will want to understand how you think. And we will teach them, replied. But I must warn you, Admiral, the way humans fight is not pleasant. It is not honorable. It is brutal and cruel and sometimes horrifying. We do things in war that would make your people sick." Looked at him with those large, dark eyes. "They have killed 60 billion of our people. They eat our children. Honor died a long time ago, Captain. If your brutality can save what remains of our civilization, then I welcome it." Raised his glass. "Then let us begin." 3 months after humanity entered the war, the galaxy began to understand what they had welcomed into their midst. Lieutenant Minu crouched in the mud of Prime, watching the patrol through his night vision scope. The insects were tall, almost 3 meters, with hard black shells and compound eyes that glowed faintly in the darkness. They moved in perfect formation, exactly as they had moved every night for the past 2 weeks. The Coalition had tried to retake this planet 6 times. Each attempt had failed. They dug into their positions and fought to the last soldier. Conventional assault was impossible. So Minu was not going to assault them conventionally. "Team 2 status," he whispered into his communicator. "In position at the water treatment facility," came the reply. Sergeant's voice was calm and steady. "Ready to proceed." "Team 3. Supply depot is rigged, waiting for your signal." That was Corporal, the youngest member of the squad. Minu checked his watch. In 10 minutes, the night shift would begin. New guards would replace old ones. For approximately 90 seconds, there would be confusion at every checkpoint. 90 seconds was enough. "All teams execute." Across the occupied city, 3 things happen at once. Team 2 released a biological agent into the water supply, a compound designed to interfere with pheromone communication. Within hours, the insects would begin having difficulty understanding each other. Team 3 detonated charges at the supply depot, destroying 6 months of food stores, and Minu's team began broadcasting false distress signals from multiple locations. The garrison descended into chaos. Soldiers ran in every direction, responding to attacks that did not exist. Commanders issued orders that their troops could not understand. Units that had fought together for years suddenly saw each other as threats, their corrupted pheromones screaming danger. By morning, half the garrison had been killed by friendly fire. The Coalition ground forces attacked at dawn. They faced an enemy that was starving, confused, and fighting itself. The battle lasted 4 hours. Prime was liberated before sunset. In a hidden laboratory 300 light-years away, Doctor studied the samples that Minu's team had collected. She was a small woman with tired eyes and steady hands, and she had been working without rest for 8 weeks. The hive mind fascinated her. It was not telepathy, as the Coalition had believed, but a complex chemical communication system. Every soldier constantly released pheromones that identified their hive, their rank, and their current emotional state. A queen's pheromones could override any individual soldier's will. It was elegant, it was efficient, and it was a weakness that humanity was going to exploit. Held up a vial of clear liquid. "This is compound K7, she said to the military observers watching through the glass. When introduced to a hive, it mimics the pheromone signature of a rival queen. Every soldier exposed to it will believe that their commanders have been replaced by enemy infiltrators." "You are saying we can make them attack their own leaders?" General leaned forward, his face intense. "Not just their leaders, each other. Their supply officers, their medical staff, anyone in a position of authority." Set down the vial. "One dose properly distributed can destroy a hive from within. They will tear themselves apart." Was silent for a long moment. "This is biological warfare. The Coalition has treaties against such weapons." "The Coalition is dying, General. I do not think they will object." He was right, they did not. Admiral sat with Captain in the observation deck of Station Meridian, watching the stars turn slowly beyond the glass. For the first time in months, the tactical displays showed more blue than red. Territory was being reclaimed. The advance had stopped. "I must ask you something," said quietly. "How did your species develop these tactics? The night attacks, the biological weapons, the psychological operations. In 17 years of war, we never thought of such things." Considered his answer carefully. "How long has your species been traveling between stars?" 12,000 years. "And in that time, how many wars have they fought?" "Thought 3 major conflicts, perhaps a dozen smaller ones." "Humanity discovered fire roughly 1 million years ago," said. "Since then, we have been at war almost constantly. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation, ideology against ideology. We have fought with stones and sticks, with swords and arrows, with guns and bombs and weapons that could destroy our entire planet." He turned to face her, and something ancient and dangerous flickered in his eyes. "Every tactic we are using against we developed fighting each other. They are brutal, yes. They are ruthless and hungry and utterly without mercy. But they have only been conquerors for a few thousand years. We have been predators for 1 million. We have had time to become very, very good at killing." Felt cold despite the warmth of the room. "You frighten me, Captain." "Good, we should frighten you. Humanity is not a species that builds empires or conquers stars. We are survivors. We adapt, we endure, and we destroy anything that threatens us." His voice softened. "But we also protect. When we decide that something matters, we will burn the universe to keep it safe. Right now, the coalition matters. You and your people matter. And so they will learn what it means to be hunted by humans." In the weeks that followed, they learned exactly that. Human advisors embedded with coalition forces taught them to fight at night, when eyes worked poorly. They taught them to attack supply lines instead of fortified positions. They taught them to spread false information, to create fear and confusion, to make the enemy doubt everything they believed. It was ugly. It was dishonorable. It was everything the coalition had refused to do for 17 years. And it worked. Commanders began reporting something they had never encountered before: fear. Their soldiers were afraid to sleep, afraid to eat, afraid to trust their own allies. Human strike teams appeared without warning, killed everyone in a room, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. Entire garrisons surrendered rather than face another night of terror. The Dominion had conquered 1,000 species. They had never lost a war. They had believed themselves invincible. They were wrong. Humanity had come, and everything had changed. The hunters had become the hunted. The conquerors were learning what it felt like to be prey. And they were afraid. 6 months after humanity entered the war, the Dominion began to retreat. Not everywhere, not quickly, but for the first time in 17 years, the lines on the map were moving in the right direction. General stood before the Combined War Council, his holographic display showing the next target, the greatest fortress world in the Dominion. From this single planet, the controlled military operations across 3 sectors. Its shields were impenetrable. Its orbital defenses could destroy a fleet before it entered weapons range. The coalition had never even attempted an attack. "Must fall," said simply. "As long as it stands, they can coordinate their forces, resupply their fleets, and continue the war indefinitely. We break their spine." High Commander's crystal form pulsed with doubt. "The orbital shields alone would require more firepower than our entire combined fleet can generate. This is impossible." "Nothing is impossible." Change the display to show a detailed schematic of the shield generators. For the past 4 months, human engineers have been studying captured technology. We have found a vulnerability, a specific resonance frequency that causes cascade failures in their shield network. He highlighted a small station orbiting. "This is the primary shield control center. If we can deliver our resonance weapon to this location, the entire planetary shield will collapse. The fleet can then engage the orbital defenses directly." "And how do you propose to reach this station?" Admiral asked. "The armada protecting is the largest they have ever assembled. 3,000 ships, perhaps more. We do not fight through them. We go around them. His face was grim. A small team will infiltrate the station using captured vessels. They will disable the shields from within and hold position long enough for the fleet to strike. The council was silent. Everyone understood what was not saying. The team would be trapped behind enemy lines with no hope of extraction. They would throw everything they had at that station the moment they realized what was happening. It was a suicide mission. "I will need volunteers," said. Sargent was the first to step forward. She was 31 years old, with short dark hair and the quiet confidence of someone who had seen too much death to fear it anymore. Behind her, 14 other soldiers raised their hands. The night before the mission, Admiral found alone in the observation bay, staring at the stars. "You do not have to do this," said softly. "You could refuse, no one would blame you." Smiled, but her eyes were sad. "When I was a child, they attacked our colony on New Sol. My parents put me on the last evacuation ship. They stayed behind to hold the landing zone. I watched from orbit as they consumed our world." She turned to face. "For 20 years I have been waiting for the chance to pay them back. Not for revenge, for my parents, for everyone who died so that I could live. This mission is that chance. Even if I do not survive, they will know that humanity does not forget. We do not forgive, and we never stop fighting." Had no words. She simply embraced the human soldier, holding her tight for a long moment. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." The infiltration began at dawn. 2 captured transports, modified with human technology, slipped past the outer patrol lines using stolen identification codes. Inside, and her team waited in silence, their weapons ready, their hearts steady. The station loomed before them, a massive structure of black metal and pulsing energy conduits. Soldiers patrolled every corridor. Security systems watched every shadow. None of it mattered. His team moved like ghosts. They had trained for this mission 100 times in simulation. Every guard position was memorized. Every patrol route was timed to the second. They reached the primary shield generator in 17 minutes without firing a shot. Then everything went wrong. The remote detonator for the resonance bomb failed. Some kind of interference from the equipment, impossible to fix in the field. The only way to trigger the weapon was manually. Someone would have to stay behind. Looked at her team. 15 soldiers who had followed her into hell without hesitation. 15 people who deserved to go home. "Get to the extraction point," she said quietly. "I will handle this." Sergeant Private started to protest. "That is an order," smiled, and for a moment she looked at peace. "Tell General the mission is complete. Tell Captain that it was an honor, and tell her that I am not afraid." She pushed them out of the room and sealed the door behind her. They found her 3 minutes later. 50 soldiers pouring through every entrance, weapons blazing. Fought them with everything she had, buying precious seconds for her team to escape. When her ammunition ran out, she drew her knife. When her knife broke, she used her fists. And when she could no longer stand, she crawled to the detonator and placed her hand on the trigger. Her last transmission was broadcast on an open channel, heard by every ship in the system. "For Earth, for everyone." The shield generator exploded. The cascade failure spread across the entire planetary network in seconds. Its impenetrable defenses fell like a curtain. The combined fleet attacked immediately. 3,000 ships scrambled to respond, but without their shields, their orbital platforms were vulnerable. Human tactics had trained the coalition well. They struck in waves, targeting command ships first, breaking the coordination. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it was over, belonged to the Alliance. General stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the survivors flee into deep space. Around him, coalition officers celebrated their first major victory in 17 years. But did not celebrate. He was reading the casualty reports. 11 of 15 soldiers had made it to extraction. 4 had died covering the retreat. And herself was gone, her body vaporized in the explosion that had saved them all. He thought about her smile in that final transmission, the peace in her voice, the absolute certainty that what she was doing mattered. Humanity had given the coalition many things: tactics, technology, hope. But perhaps the greatest gift was this: the willingness to sacrifice everything for people they had never met, the understanding that some things were worth dying for. They fought for hunger, for conquest, for the endless expansion of their hive. Humans fought for something else entirely. They fought for each other, for their families and their friends and their allies, for the simple belief that the universe could be better than it was. Opened a channel to the fleet. This victory belongs to Sargent and her team. They gave everything so that we could be here today, remember their names, honor their sacrifice, and make sure it was not in vain. Across 1,000 ships, soldiers of a dozen species bowed their heads in silence. The tide had turned, they were retreating, and humanity had proven once and for all that they belonged among the stars. 1 year after humanity entered the war, the combined fleet gathered for the final assault. 12,000 ships from 13 species, the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Their target was the heart of the Dominion, the place where everything had begun. Admiral commanded the coalition forces from the bridge of her flagship. General led the ground invasion force. Captain coordinated fleet tactics, his reputation now legendary among every species in the Alliance. They had fought together for a year, bled together, mourned together. They were more than allies now. They were family. But before the battle began, called a meeting of the senior commanders. "I want to propose something," he said quietly, "something that may sound insane." The holographic figures of a dozen admirals and generals looked at him with curiosity, had earned their trust. Whatever he was about to suggest, they would listen. "We should offer peace." Silence, then an explosion of objections. They had killed trillions. They had consumed entire civilizations. They deserved nothing but extinction. Waited for the shouting to stop. "I understand your anger. I share it. But consider this. If we destroy them completely, we become the greatest threat in the galaxy. Every species that remains will look at humanity and wonder when we will turn on them. We will have proven that we are capable of genocide." "They are not people," growled. "They are monsters." "They are alive," replied. "They think, they feel, they want to survive. That makes them people, even if they are people we hate." He paused. "On Earth, we learned a long time ago that cycles of revenge only create more war. Someone has to break the cycle. Someone has to be the first to offer their hand instead of their fist." "You are asking us to forgive them." The voice was thick with disbelief. "No, I am asking us to be better than them. To prove that we are not just stronger but wiser. To show the galaxy that power does not have to mean cruelty." Lieutenant Commander stepped forward. She was Minyu's sister, one of the officers who had risen through the ranks during the war. Her brother had died at Prime. Her parents had been killed when they bombed Earth's colony on. "I lost everyone," she said quietly. "My family, my friends, my home. I have every reason to want them wiped from existence." She looked at, "But Captain is right. If we kill them all, we become what they were. We become conquerors, destroyers, monsters with advanced technology. Is that what we want humanity to be? Is that the legacy we want to leave?" The commanders debated for 3 hours. In the end, they agreed to transmit a peace offer to the complete surrender, reduction of territory, disarmament, reparations, but life, survival. The Queen refused. The battle began at dawn. For 19 days, the two sides fought across the system. They defended there with desperate fury, throwing everything they had against the Alliance fleet. Ships burned. Soldiers died. The stars themselves seemed to weep. On the 20th day, a human strike team led by Major reached the Queen's chamber. They had fought through 10 kilometers of tunnels, past thousands of defenders, losing half their number along the way. Himself was wounded, bleeding from a dozen cuts, his armor cracked and burned. He stood before the Queen, his weapon pointed at her head. She was enormous, a mountain of chitin and flesh, surrounded by her last guards. The mother of billions, the heart of the Dominion, the creature that had started the war that killed trillions. "Do it," she said. Her voice was ancient and tired. "End it. That is what you came for." Looked at her for a long moment. He thought about his fallen soldiers. He thought about who had died so that this moment could happen. He thought about Captain's words. Someone has to break the cycle. He lowered his weapon. "No," he said, "I came to offer you a choice." The Queen stared at him with compound eyes that had seen 1,000 conquered worlds. "What choice?" "Surrender, accept our terms. Your species lives. Your children live. The war ends and we begin the long, hard work of building peace." "Why would you offer this? We have killed your people. We have eaten your allies. We have done nothing to deserve mercy." Smiled, though there was no joy in it. "You are right. You do not deserve mercy, but we are not offering mercy. We are offering wisdom. The wisdom to know that revenge is sweet but empty, that hatred only creates more hatred, that the only way forward is together." He stepped closer to the Queen, close enough that she could kill him with a single blow. "Humans are very good at war. We have proven this, but we are also good at peace. We know how to forgive even when forgiveness seems impossible. We know how to build even from ruins. That is the choice I am offering you. Not mercy. Hope." The Queen was silent for a long time. Around her, her guards waited for the order to attack, stood alone, unarmed, vulnerable. Finally, the Queen spoke. "Your species is strange," she said. "You fight like demons and then offer kindness. You destroy our armies and then ask for peace. I do not understand you." "You do not have to understand us," replied. "You just have to trust us." Another long silence. Then slowly the Queen lowered her head. "I accept your terms." The war was over. 10 years later, Ambassador addressed the Galactic Assembly. The Great Chamber was filled with representatives from every species in the Alliance, including a delegation from the Protectorate. They were not friends yet. The wounds of war were too deep for friendship, but they were no longer enemies. "A decade ago," said, "my species was dying. The coalition was falling. We had lost hope. Then the humans came with their small ships and their strange tactics and their absolute refusal to surrender." She looked at Captain, now gray-haired and distinguished, sitting in the human delegation. "They taught us how to fight, but more importantly, they taught us how to win, not just battles but the war itself, and not just the war but the peace that followed. Humanity could have helped us destroy them completely. They could have led a crusade of revenge across the galaxy. Instead, they chose to offer mercy. They chose to believe that even the worst enemies could become something better." Smiled, and there were tears in her eyes. "The humans have a saying. It comes from one of their ancient philosophers. The arc of history is long, but it bends toward justice." I did not understand those words when I first heard them. Now I do. She raised her hand toward the assembled delegates. "We are here today because humans believed in something greater than victory. They believed in peace, in forgiveness, in the possibility that the universe could be better than it was. They changed everything, not just the war, everything." In the audience, bowed his head. He thought about all the soldiers who had died, all the sacrifices that had brought them to this moment. Minu, thousands of others whose names would never be forgotten. They had not died for conquest or glory. They had died for this. A room full of former enemies, sitting together, building something new. The humans had changed the course of the war. But more than that, they had changed the course of history. And somewhere in the vast darkness between the stars, the future was bright.